Today on Voices for Change, celebrities standing in solidarity with protesters demanding justice.
If you're an ally, truly prove it. Prove your merit. Put yourself on the line. Put your career on the line. Put your followers on the line.
Stars of stage and screen speak out about systemic racism in their industry and push to claim their stories.
The doors are opening. I feel like it is such a good time right now for Black artists, and that's why we have to seize the opportunity.
Plus, supporting Black theater, a fund to help continue telling diverse stories.
And on the proof, there's no more with this, away at once with love or jealousy.
Good morning. Welcome to this KTVU special Voices for Change. I'm Greg Lee. Every Sunday, our goal is to dig deeper into the important and urgent issues facing our community and beyond. This week, we're talking to stars of stage and screen about using their platform to call for social justice and fighting systemic racism in their own craft.
We have to make sure that once this is done, is that we have to try to make change occur when it comes to police brutality. And what I'm saying is that there has to be a deterrent.
Oscar-winning actor Jamie Foxx joined San Francisco leaders at City Hall last month during a protest condemning racial inequality in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd. He called on other celebs to speak up and take action. A few weeks later, some of the stars of the last black man in San Francisco did just that, joining a protest on the Bay Bridge. And on Juneteenth, rapper, director, and Oakland native Boots Riley called for people to join the rally and shut down the Port of Oakland. Legendary Danny Glover also addressed the crowd by phone.
You want the next generation. You were right here using your voices and using your feeling, using the extraordinary power that you have here.
Coleman Domingo knows something about using his voice. The award-winning actor, director, and playwright is well known for his role on Fear the Walking Dead. But his career is full of roles shining a light on Black history, with credits in Oscar-winning films Selma, If Beale Street Could Talk, and The Birth of a Nation. And in his personal life, he's an activist, fighting for social justice.
Coleman, thanks for joining us. You've played so many powerful roles in your career. Selma, The Scottsboro Boys, If Beale Street Could Talk. Can you talk about the importance of those roles in the frame of the experience of Black people in America in history and today?
Well, you know what? I've been a part of these incredible projects. And the first one that comes to mind is Selma. And I think the greatest thing we can do as artists is be a part of things that you know that will be a part of systemic change. And I knew by shining a light on Selma, and I was really so proud with what Ava DuVernay did with that film and David Oyelowo. Every producer was on board to tell the story. And so I think, I look at, something like that, like I think it was a Paramount film, that it did start, it wasn't only just, I believe it was everyone's responsibility to sort of get that right. Same with like If Beale Street Could Talk or The Scottsboro Boys. The Scottsboro Boys in particular was written by Kander and Ebb, writers who can, and librettists who can do anything they wanted to, but they chose to tell this story of 9 African-American teenage boys who were wrongly accused of rape in 1931. They believed that story mattered. I have been telling people of late, because I know that there's a lot of questions sometimes in the arts on like, who can tell whose story? And I fully believe that, the story of the Scottsboro Boys, it was out there. It was, intellectual property. And the choice to tell that story and to tell it in the way that we did, in the framework that we did, I thought was one of the most incredible things that I'm so proud of in my entire career.
Coleman, you wrote a really powerful column in Deadline last month, and you said there's no time for easy anymore. Tell me why it's crucial and imperative for actors like you to continue to lift up your voices in this moment.
As you examine and you move further in your career and you have a larger voice and a platform, and once you have a platform, what do you do with it? And so I think that was the questions that we were wrestling with Lights Out, Nat King Cole, where it seems it's wild. We wrote this about 2 years ago, but I also felt that it was no time to be easy to be, because I think silence is complicity. And I had to examine my own as well, how much I spoke out, how much I talked about politics or what was meaningful, not just the power of being an entertainer, but also understanding that you have a true platform. And so to put out there truly what you feel, and that is actually, it's a liberating thing. It's not an easy thing. And I think it's necessary. And I think it's necessary for every single person to be a part of the conversation. No one gets to take a back seat to this anymore. No one gets to say, oh, I can't talk about that because I'm white and I feel uncomfortable. Especially my colleagues who feel that way, I push them to say, you have to actually be, if you're an ally, truly prove it. Prove your merit. Put yourself on the line. Put your career on the line. Put your followers on the line. And I think that's what we have to do. I know a lot of my followers, they may have voted differently or believe something differently, but at the end of the day, we're also human. I want to show what connects us. So for my money as an artist, I'm saying, if you love me, you tune into the things I'm a part of, you support me and say, oh, I love Victor Strand. Oh, I love when you do that movie. When you love me, love all of me. And I'm going to show you exactly who I am because I think that brings us closer together.
You are a buyer. How do I know? Because I am a closer.
Obviously, a lot of Fear the Walking Dead fans out there. In that role, as a leading man and a person of color in a show like that, how important is it to show diversity and to be in a position for you? And what message does that send to the next generation of actors and playwrights?
Greatly. It means greatly to me. I think when Dave Erickson presented me with that role, 6 seasons ago, I was very incredibly impressed that the writing was had so much depth and complexity, because it was pretty usual to me that, they wanted me to play a trope of some sort, and I wasn't interested. So I sort of stayed away from television for a long time. My work had stayed in the theater, where I felt like I was more useful. And then this role comes along, which is an examination of our humanity. And you have a character who's complex, like Victor Strand, who is not, I think what's important, and it's even the way I write, he's not necessarily, he is absolutely an African-American man. He is, I don't believe in colorblind. I believe that, specifically the way they wrote him, they didn't write him with any sort of color in mind. But I always say, Victor Strand is absolutely an African-American man, and everything he's done is in response to that. And it's important to show that complexity with characters. And so I'm glad that there's been more characters like that on television. I think it's very important for us not to only just be actors. We have to be producers. We have to be financiers. We have to have, I have my own production company, because it's in response to the industry. I have to, I can't complain about it. I have to build it, and I have to be a part of it, and I have to be at the head of my own table and actually saying, oh, this is what matters.
Coleman, you were part of a letter titled Dear White American Theater, and It's basically calling out systemic racism in the theater industry. What needs to happen for things to be better and to get better?
For things to be better and get better, we have to root out racism wherever we can. And I think with the Dear White American Theater, the artists are responding to the systemic racism in the theater in particular. And, I feel like we have to meet it wherever we are, wherever we work, whatever institutions, you name it, high, low, we have to hit it from every corner.
We matter. Our music matters. Our stories matter.
Coming up after the break, a conversation with actress and director Margot Hall, Bay Area native, calling on society to root out racism, what she says can be done to change the narrative. Stay with us.
Swear to God, it used to be a black town. Before Oakland West, before Uptown.
She has spent her career speaking up about injustices in the entertainment industry. But Bay Area award-winning actor, director, and playwright Margot Hall says we as a society have a long way to go to reach equality. She told me she's not only battling structures of racism, she's encouraging the next generation to capture and claim their narrative.
Margot, thanks for joining us. You've been part of so many powerful productions. When you think about starring in Blind Spotting and Fences and directing Thurgood and How I Learned What I Learned, how important is it to be part of these stories that really talk about the experience of Black people in America?
It's what I live for. I feel like as a Black artist, I get to educate. So many people are asking questions right now within the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of white allies. What can I do? And I say, watch theater. I mean, one of the ways I can activate that education is choosing plays that will lend themselves to not only a historical context, but also for you to learn about Black people. I feel like a lot of our issues around the Black Lives Matter movement is basically saying we matter. Our music matters. Our stories matter. And I think the more you can give people those stories, you can use your art to educate. So I feel like also as a Black artist, I have to stand up for a lot of the young BIPOC people, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, coming up right now and be that voice for them. Because inside a lot of the white institutions, sometimes they feel insecure and they don't know how to speak up. So I always use my platform to talk to all institutions about equity and diversity and equal justice within our community, because we have issues within the theater community around equal justice and systemic racism. So I think a friend of mine said something that really stuck with me about the Black Lives Matter movement. She said that this is a dangerous opportunity. And I think what I took from that, it's not danger as in it's violent. I think it's a dangerous opportunity because we could let it slip away and not take advantage of this time. So we're in a dangerous place right now. If we don't keep pushing forward and calling people out in a way that they can hear it, but in a way to educate, then we'll lose this moment.
How encouraging is that for you to see the next generation seizing the narrative and having these stories be at the forefront of entertainment today?
Oh, it's just incredible. And I've gotten to work with a lot of them. You know, David and I have been friends for many years. We've acted together with a theater company, Campo Santo, and to see him and Raphael thrive like that, it's so empowering. It's like we could do anything. The doors are opening. I feel like it is such a good time right now for Black artists, and that's why we have to seize the opportunity. This movement has also pushed us to challenge each other. I know, like within the theater community, there are a lot of initiatives going on. There's the We See You movement, where a lot of the Hollywood artists and different, theater artists came forward and signed this long letter saying, we see you, we see what you're doing, and it's time for you to stop the systemic racism and the racial injustice. And I think these movements are coming together. I myself have decided that it's time for me to support Black theaters specifically. And I have started a GoFundMe campaign to fund Black theater. And we're trying to raise $1 million because we have to get our theaters through this COVID, because we don't have the big funding, a lot of the Black theaters. We don't have the large donors that come out for some of these white institutions. So I'm taking all of my energy and saying we're going to support all Black theaters across the country with this GoFundMe and shore us up so that when this is all over, we're coming out like gangbusters, ready.
Such a powerful message. We'll have more on that GoFundMe a little bit later in the show. Like Margot, acclaimed filmmaker and Bay Area native Jensen Berry has focused his producing and directing skills to tell the stories of Black people around the world. His latest documentary premiered last week on the Oprah Winfrey Network. His films address prejudice and, in Berry's words, expose issues that need to be confronted to begin
Jensen,
healing.
thanks for joining us. I wanted to first congratulate you on your latest documentary, Dark Girls 2, further delving into the issue of colorism around the world. That film talks about the healing of women who have dealt and are dealing with prejudice. What can you tell our viewers about what that healing looks like?
I went around probably the USA, and I went to Paris, and I went to Ghana and Antigua to shoot and to talk to women of color to see what healing could possibly look like. And we went through maybe 5 to 6 different therapies, I offer in the film of what that could possibly look like for women. And what I did first
was I tried those therapies first on me to see if they worked. And then when I found out they worked for me, and I found out that there's a combination that worked for me, I decided to put those in the film because they were legit. They were legitimate therapies that worked. And then I offered them to this is what I offer inside the film. And I went to talk to every specialist in their particular field to give them, for them to give us what the healing could possibly look like.
There's so many deeply personal stories for these Black women. How important is it for you as a documentarian to tell those stories, especially when you look at what's happening in our country now?
You know what, man? I became responsible the day I was born, like all of us. I knew my purpose on the planet when I was 9 years old, growing up in New Jersey. And I knew that I would be a part of the entertainment business, but I also knew that how I was raised by my parents and my family, that I wanted to be a part of something that was healing for people who look like me, and then for everybody else. But I know that we needed healing as a people of color in America. And so my projection was kind of predestined already, man. So I just followed it, man. I just followed it, regardless of what people told me that I could not do or I shouldn't do. I stayed on the path of faith. So I need to look at these issues that pain people, and then as a documentarian, go after those issues and expose them, even though they're the darkest issues that people don't want to deal with sometimes. But there's those issues that are the ones that we need to heal from so we can move on as human beings, regardless of what color or what race we are or what ethnicity we are.
When you look at the stories that you tell and the documentaries that you have, what do you want the story to look like moving forward? What would you like to see things covered in the future as we kind of reach this turning point for our country?
It's a very good question, man. What do I want to see? I want to see more representation of what America really looks like. In the media. You're a man of color. I'm a man of color. There are so many stories in our communities that haven't been told, that haven't been seen, that are relevant. We do fall in love. We do have bad marriages. We do have kids. We are great fathers. You know, we do have horror stories. We also can write. We also can act. We also can be in front of the camera. We also can produce. We also can direct. And those things need to be explored, man, on a level playing field. So it's about everyone taking back their power, because we give so much power to other people over us, man, that we believe that we have no power whatsoever. And that's not true. That's not true. So if all of us can take back our power and have a voice for ourselves and say, listen, we have a story too that's just as relevant as anybody else on this planet. And it needs to be seen, told, and written by us. That's the way to go.
Tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face?
No, Cassius, for the eye sees not itself but by reflection.
Coming up after the break, a Bay Area theater company dedicated to opening classic theater to a diverse audience and creating a space for actors of color to become stars. A conversation with the founder of the African American Shakespeare Company next. For 25 years, the African American Shakespeare Company has been re-envisioning classic theater intended to reach a diverse audience and working to build equity and inclusion on stage and behind the scenes. For more on the incredible work of the AASC, we're joined by founder and executive director Sherry Young. Sherry, thank you for joining us. You've been inspiring Black actors, producers, and playwrights for nearly 3 decades now, 25 years. As you see this watershed moment for the country, how empowered are you to keep leading this charge?
It's so important. I was listening to your other guest earlier today, and African American Shakespeare Company is really about stepping over those boundaries, going in places where we're not supposed to be traditionally, and letting the community see who we are in all of our glory of like anger, love, romance, revenge, all of those great things to bite your teeth into. And African American Shakespeare is really one of its kind.
Yeah. Sherry, COVID-19 shut down a lot of things, including your in-person operations, but I know you have been creative in your response using YouTube. Tell me about some of the struggles or issues you faced.
I think the biggest issue we face is making sure that our audience is safe. There's no point in trying to produce and have people gathering if it's an unsafe environment. That's one of our biggest issues. And until we are able to gather safely, we're fine being closed. Actually having an online programming platform enables us to reach out to people we've never had the opportunity to work with on a national level. So we're very excited about that. And of course, we're working on some other internal systems of a 5-year strategic plan. So COVID-19 doesn't have everything negative about it.
Yeah, Sherry, Margot Hall told us about a GoFundMe to help Black theaters make it through this pandemic. How important is it for people to support groups like you and other Black theaters that are doing this good work?
Well, of course, theaters getting hard hit all across the industry, but if you're a Black theater or any other culturally specific theater, our numbers are lower in terms of audience attendance, and that means donors and also resources and support. So while I call them the big houses, you know, have larger budgets, they also have a lot more resources. But if you're smaller, we don't have that same equity. And of course, we'll get hit the hardest. And I fear that maybe some of our institutions, Black theater institutions, might not be able to survive not being in operation for an entire year.
Sure, we talked with our other guests about the importance of this next generation of Black actors and directors and playwrights. A lot of your programs are geared towards young people in the community. What does it mean for them to see people like Coleman Domingo and Margot Hall on the big stage?
Well, I worked with Coleman back in 1994. It was so long ago. And he was such a warm person. Of course, I know Margot through our artistic director and being in the Bay Area community. And they're inspirations. We're working with adult actors now that's told me that they got to know our company because of our Cinderella production when they were just 10 years old. And now they're like in their early 30s. So, I mean, we were their inspiration of trying it themselves. And we're always excited about people's careers going off and really having ownership and taking their space on the national stage, film, or television.
Sherry, we've got about 30 seconds left, but if you could send a message to any of the aspiring Black actors, writers out there, what would you tell them?
Do not wait for anyone else to give you permission to validate who you are. You need to go out, believe in yourself, and create your own work. I think a lot of our Black actors are waiting for someone else to tell them, oh, well, I'll see you as the criminal or I'll see you as a doctor. No, make your own projects, and that's the only way you're going to have agency and your own voice.
Beautiful. Sherry Young, can't thank you enough for your time this morning. Keep up the good work. We'll keep trying to help if we can.
Thank you.
To rewatch any of the interviews you saw today or our previous episodes of Voices for Change or more on the movement taking place across the country, just download the all-new KTVU mobile app. You can find it in the App Store. I want to thank all of our guests for coming on today and engaging in some very important conversations. A quick note for our viewers, due to special programming on Fox, our next show will be on July 26th. That's in 3 weeks. I hope you will join us then. We'll continue these very important conversations. Wishing you all a great and healthy Sunday on this beautiful morning. Have a good one.